In my research project, I'm looking into the development of the sense of self and where that originates and how that can change and affect the development of one's sense of self over one's lifetime. And in this report, I will explain how the sense of self is developed, along with the major key aspects of the sense of self, and an example of how the development of self-esteem can lead to later causes in one's life. The sense of self is the representation of one's identity, which begins to develop around age 2. This is where the concept of self-awareness begins to arise, which is one of the major keys of sense of self-development, along with social identity, self-esteem, self-knowledge, and self-perception. All parts of the self enable people to alter, change, add, and modify aspects of themselves in order to gain social acceptance in society. The development of the sense of self takes place mostly in childhood and adolescence, primarily childhood, and this will affect how the sense of self is processed by the same person as they become an adult. One of the most important and crucial aspects towards the development of self is one's development of self esteem and how one views themselves, their value, their personal value, their value towards the society around them, the value that family members and peers have given them. Really relates to how one personally identifies later on in life, because people that have good self-esteem were told that they're doing well, were given praise, were more confident in their abilities, they're less worried about what others think of them because they're comfortable with who they are. And people with low self-esteem are hesitant, they don't want to fail, they're less confident, they are confused about who they are and their sense of self, and they're more prone to emotional imbalances. And when I last saw my psychiatrist, I brought this up to her because I feel like this really relates to my personal experience of self-esteem and sense of self, because one could diagnose me with the stereotypical daddy issues, which means just like having a lack of a father figure, a poor father figure, an unencouraging father figure, just like not a proper childhood, the way that one is raised, and how that affects one later on in life with emotional imbalances. Because if one's not receiving the right love and attention and care as a child from both parents, then one seeks for that later on in life, like looking for emotional assistance, like trying to constantly find someone to give them attention, and not really being comfortable in oneself without being able to get the approval of another person around them, for like the approval of love or self-worth. So this is just an example of how like the way that self-esteem is developed as a child and how that is dealt with within the family and within the society, and how one not only perceives himself but how others around them perceive them, and how that crucial aspect of self-esteem can lead to emotional imbalances later on in the future, and how one's sense of self could be compromised due to these emotional imbalances.